Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at Unlimited Sword. We've done a couple of Unlimited videos with this one, so it's quite interesting, I think, overall to see how the rotation and the aggro swords kind of compare. And overall they're very similar, just probably a little bit better bottom end with some interesting ones in this deck. Obviously this deck is from Rias in the Shadowverse Discord. He said, try this out, so I did. I gave it a go and it's fairly interesting. I have some okay matchups, and once I got the hang of how to use these buffs in a more appropriate manner, which as you'll see some aren't perfect, I did okay. I think it's definitely crazy when you do get some buffs to line up, and works out really well and has a lot of fun. So if you're looking for something interesting, give this a go. Pretty cheap, I mean no legendaries, which is always great. Very minimal golds. We're only running the 3 Aldors and 3 Perseus, so really budget orientated, which might be nice if you're looking to complete some sword missions or just in general to play a cheaper deck. So we'll get right into it and take a look. So our first matchup is Shadow. Shadow is fairly popular, both Atomy and a kind of mid-range aggressive type variant in Unlimited, at least from what I've played against. We've got Albert, which we don't really want now. I probably should have kept it, honestly, but I was trying to work out how this deck would perform, so I was trying to aim for some really low drops just to really hit Shadow hard in the early game, where they're most likely going to play a bunch of stuff, whereas Albert was more mid-game, and I really didn't want to be pushing that yet. Also good to get Dance of Death as soon as possible, because it's going to be the most effective way to deal with an Atomy. So we do get a little bit of damage in. Always works out nice when we get that early damage. Shadow doesn't really have much to show for it going here. And our Mentor's Teaching and another Perseus actually gives us some nice buffs. I could have probably just threw the Perseus into the 2-2 here and just kind of traded it and let the little hedgehog grow, but I didn't really want the hedgehog taking any unnecessary damage yet. So I felt like losing a 1-2 was going to be a little bit better, especially when it means I'm really not losing it too much this turn, although the Lurching Corpse does screw me over, really unfortunately. So we got the Quick Blader, which obviously mine's the alt art, which we earned a little while back. You can't get that now, maybe one day they'll bring it back, but I highly doubt it. So unfortunately you guys won't be able to get the alt art if you don't already have it. Skeleton, not really a problem. We're mainly just looking to deal our own kind of damage, so a Dance of Death will be a quite nice way to deal with at least the 3-2 skeleton, and then follow that up with an Aldors. Should go into a really nice curve. Aldors Command, if you are a new player and haven't played much Unlimited, is really solid. A 2-3 ward and a 3-2 storm. With an evolve you can get a good amount of damage while securing your board as well as possible. It's especially nice follow-up to a turn 5 Albert, which unfortunately, I threw away one Albert there, so we didn't get to do that. But overall, I think it's still one of the best cards in the game so far. Although we do have to deal with this 4-6, which is a little bit of a pain, so throwing the Evolve, probably a better option. We do get a couple of 1-1s out of this, being on Enhance, so it's not the worst possible play we could have went for when they do destroy it. They're bound to destroy it. I don't see them not doing it. I mean, if you're going to play something, that's the best thing you could do. So it does at least force a couple of trades here where they have to get rid of these 1-1s. They really don't want to be within lethal range, so definitely what you want to aim to do. And of course they go wide. What Shadow does best when it's a more, I guess, aggressive style Shadow deck at the moment. Could still be an Atomy, although both Mid Shadow and Atomy run very similar curves, but Mid Shadow doesn't tend to run House, so I would assume it is an Atomy deck. We do get a nice push though. So we do only leave them with 6 health. Going to work out really nicely. Force them to use as many trades as they possibly can. And with that, they don't really have too much of a board available to them right now. Really digging for cards, honestly. Probably looking for that Atomy play. And there it is, Lord Atomy. We don't really have anything to necessarily counter that, although the Eldor's command on its own should be enough to at least push 3 damage to them while setting up an okay board. So we should at least get some good damage in. At the same time, we can actually throw down the Vanguard, although I probably could have just saved it for the Perseus. I feel like getting the 1-3 on board really contests these skeletons nicely, allowing me to kind of just vary up my attack a little better. So they do trade the skeletons thanks to having the haunted house. I suppose that is the better way to do it. So we're only 3 damage short, which with 3 Alberts and a good source of damage, we should be completely fine with. We don't need much damage at all. And a Halbert off the top on turn 9 is 6 damage to the face. Couldn't have asked for a better top deck, but the odds were kind of in our favour. So not too surprising. So we do have another very quick Shadow match, and then we will take a look at a Blood matchup, I believe it is, and that will be the video. So this Shadow matchup, very quick. We did get a very nice intro hand, and they didn't really have any way to actually counter our board, which very much in my favour. So all 1-drops, we're looking at a very good curve going into probably any of those on turn 1 into any of them on turn 2. I really can just follow them up immediately without any issue, although we do get Mentor's teachings, which may change how I decide to curve out here. It really just depends on what kind of play they go for, and a Lurching Corpse isn't really much of a concern, especially now that we drew a Vanguard again, so we've actually got some amazing plays next turn as well. So we go for the couple of damage. I do throw the Perseus to the board. I mean, there isn't that much Commander Synergy. Actually, I don't know if there is any in this deck at all. So throwing the 1-2s really don't matter what order we go in. And of course, we just get to play a couple more. And with Kunoichi Masters in hand, it looks like we will curve really nicely into turn 5 from Geno on turn 4, along with just purely having damage output here. Our opponent just doesn't have anything that impressive, especially since we have Bladed Hedgehog. We'll be able to kill a couple of these skeletons while getting favourable trades, and set up a really good Hedgehog for next turn. I mean, how does Shadow really go about countering this all at once? It'd be very difficult to clear everything in a single turn. And obviously it's so hard that Shadow just didn't have anything to do that, which is why I said it was a reasonably quick game. And last but not least, we actually have a Blood matchup. Blood always keeps things fairly interesting because they are very aggressive, similar to the Sword list. Although the Sword list is, I feel, a little cluttered with buffs, it definitely is more fun than a normal standard aggro Sword list. So, as I mentioned at the start, give it a go if you are interested in something cheap. It's definitely an easy deck to build. It doesn't require too much. I mean, you've got the 2 golds and the Alberts. Literally your only big value cards in the entire deck, which I'm sure most reasonable players would have. Although if you are a new player and you're worried about crafting Alberts, I would be just slightly cautious because Albert does rotate next set. So we've only got another about month and a half before that does happen, so do keep that in mind. Bladed Hedgehog gets the drop. And of course, Angel of Word, pretty much a natural counter when you've already got a couple of 1-1s on board. This is why Blood is as aggressive as this deck, with a nice curve out. It's very hard to make a good comeback. Although we do get another Bladed Hedgehog, which actually turns out to be pretty good, because I mean, they're going to have to trade a couple things in here, unless they happen to have something like Hungering Horde. Just a nightmare for me. I mean, really getting crushed in this early game. We may be able to start making our swing back with this Geno. Being able to remove that 2 at least leaves us available to do something. Although Scarlet, again, a perfect counter to my plays. This Blood deck just had everything kind of line up for them at this point. So they do put me to 10 very, very quickly, which is a little bit of a worry. At least in my case, I do have a Bladed Hedgehog, Princess Vanguard, and a normal Vanguard, meaning we get some nice little bits of buff. We can easily evolve and trade, and pretty much just try and set our board up as best we can. I mean, the 2-4 is annoying, but not the biggest threat, especially considering what we've got. So they do throw the Belf. This is kind of the crux of their turn. Throwing a Belf down to drop themselves to 10 against another aggressive deck always seems like a huge risk. Although they do have a slight amount of healing, I don't know how we're going to get out of this. So they get 5 damage on me. They have a solid board. I really have not much in hand to deal with them, although double Mentor's Teachings and Forge Weaponry is great. Although not quite enough, we just need to dig and we find Keen Enhancement. These buffs total up to 10 damage just on board and an extra 2 for the Evolve for exactly 12. Their Belf and my draws were so on point that it gave me victory. It was quite surprising to see that happen in that exact order. Worked out so very well. So I definitely recommend giving this deck a shot. It's fun, it has some power, you can do some big bursts like you saw in that last game, which was absolutely hilarious, and just really cheap. I mean, that's what we want these days, cheap decks for newer players they can use, especially since this is unlimited. It means you can use this deck forever. I mean, it's probably going to get worse as the expansions roll out, but you never know, we might see some nice stuff for Sword coming, and it could really buff this deck in unlimited, which is really nice. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. As always, find the deck list in the description below, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.